Carol Burnett, the woman America has adored for generations, known for that warm smile, quick wit, and the kind of humor that could light up any room. For decades, she's been Hollywood's symbol of grace and kindness. But even legends have moments that leave the world speechless. Now in her 90s, Carol Burnett sat down for a rare and brutally honest Rolling Stone interview, and what she revealed about certain men from her past left fans completely stunned. These weren't random names. They were men who once shaped her career and even her personal life. Some betrayed her loyalty with lies and infidelity. Others twisted their power to edge her out of major shows like Saturday Night Live, keeping her on the sidelines for years. And then there was that one younger man who crossed a serious line by mocking her in a cruel sketch, a move so disrespectful that Carol had to take him to court to defend her name and dignity. So who were these men that caused such pain to one of television's most cherished icons? And which one hurt her so deeply she could never forgive him? One name stands out: Harvey Corman. Once her most trusted co-star and creative partner, but also the man at the center of a storm that forced Carol to make one of the hardest choices of her career: to fire him. Back in the glittering world of 1970s television, the Carol Burnett Show ruled the airwaves. Every laugh meant massive ratings and major advertising dollars. At its heart was the unstoppable duo, Carol Burnett and Harvey Corman, a pair so in sync that audiences believed they were born to make magic together. Carol brought the heart. Harvey brought the punchline. Together, they were unstoppable. But behind the bright lights and endless applause, things were getting tense and fast. By 1974, their friendship was starting to crack. The show was at its peak. CBS had ordered 3 more seasons, and they'd just bagged their 4th Emmy. Yet something behind the scenes was off. Costume designer Bob Mackie later spilled that Harvey had grown short-tempered, snapping at people, and even keeping his distance from Carol backstage. A storm was brewing quietly, but it wouldn't stay quiet for long. Many believed Harvey felt overshadowed, convinced that Carol's fame had outshined his own success. And one day, it all exploded. It happened one April afternoon at Studio 33 in Television City, Los Angeles. The team was rehearsing an episode with guest star Petula Clark, who had flown in from London just for the taping. During one of Harvey's scenes, a small lighting mistake left his face in shadow, and that's when he lost it. He slammed his script to the floor and shouted, "After all these years, can't anyone get it right?" The studio went silent. Director Dave Powers rushed over, trying to calm him down, but Harvey wouldn't stop. He kept venting, furious and hurt, even throwing in that Carol hadn't noticed the mistake. Those words hit her hard, and from that moment on, nothing between them would ever be the same again. Carol Burnett, known everywhere for her calm, kindness, and unshakable grace, had finally reached her limit. In the middle of that chaotic scene, she rose slowly from her seat in the audience and walked straight toward the stage. Without yelling or losing her composure, she said firmly, "Harvey, I've had enough. If you can't respect everyone here, you don't need to be here." The air in the studio froze. According to Bob Mackie's book, Even More Laughs, you could have heard a pin, or maybe even a microphone, drop. Harvey Corman just stared at her, stunned, his pride clashing with his shock. Then, without saying another word, he turned and walked off set. No one dared to follow. Later that afternoon, one of the cameramen recalled seeing Carol sitting alone for more than half an hour, staring at Harvey's empty chair. She whispered quietly, "I didn't want it to end this way." But he went too far. It was a rare glimpse of sadness from a woman who always kept her emotions tucked neatly behind her trademark smile. Within hours, the Los Angeles Herald-Examiner splashed the headline, "Harvey Corman leaves the Carol Burnett Show during rehearsal." CBS stayed silent, offering no official statement, but the rumors spread like wildfire. Variety reported that Burnett had finally lost her patience after months of mounting tension behind the scenes. For 3 straight days, Hollywood couldn't stop talking. Was it true? Had America's sweetheart really fired her beloved co-star? Burnett's close friend Vicki Lawrence tried to reach out to Harvey, but he wouldn't take her calls. Meanwhile, Carol kept filming as if nothing had happened, never once mentioning his name again. Crew members later described her as calm but visibly drained, carrying the weight of the entire show on her shoulders. Then, early Wednesday morning, CBS received a call. The voice on the line was shaky. It was Harvey. "I need to talk to Carol," he told the assistant. When Burnett picked up, he spoke softly. "I was wrong. he admitted. "I want to come back." The next day, he showed up at the morning production meeting. Everyone turned to watch as he apologized to the crew. Then he faced Carol directly, voice cracking. "I forgot why I started," he said. Carol didn't hesitate. She smiled warmly, stepped forward, and pulled him into a hug. The entire studio burst into applause. Still, beneath that wave of relief, everyone sensed it. Something between them had shifted forever. Harvey stayed on the Carol Burnett show until 1977, then quietly moved on to other projects. Carol remained gracious, staying in touch, but the closeness they once shared never fully returned. In a 1983 Entertainment Tonight interview, when asked about Harvey, Carol smiled wistfully and said, "Harvey made me laugh more than anyone, and gave me the biggest headaches." After the chaos on set, Carol Burnett made herself a promise. Never again would emotions get in the way of her work. But even as she kept that vow, the storms in her personal life were just beginning to rise. Behind the glittering smiles and roaring laughter of the Carol Burnett show, the very show that made television history, her marriage was quietly falling apart. Carol and her husband Joe Hamilton had once been seen as CBS's golden couple. Their love story had all the makings of a Hollywood dream: passion, teamwork, and two brilliant minds building an empire together. But as the cameras rolled and the applause thundered, their laughter at home slowly faded into silence and heartbreak. Their story began back in 1960, when Carol was a rising star on The Gary Moore Show. Joe Hamilton, a talented producer with a sharp creative mind, was 10 years older and already a respected name in the industry. He'd worked on The Steve Allen Show and The Colgate Comedy Hour, so he knew the business inside out. They met during a CBS taping in New York, and Carol would later recall, "He looked at me in a way that made me feel like I truly mattered." 3 years later, in a small, intimate ceremony in California, surrounded by only their closest friends and colleagues, they tied the knot. By the time the Carol Burnett show premiered in 1967, Joe had stepped in as producer, her mentor, her creative partner, and her husband. Together, they built a powerhouse. Carol brought the warmth, the laughter, the magic. Joe provided the structure and control to keep it all running smoothly. It seemed like the perfect match, but success can come with a price, and theirs began to show the cracks. Costume designer Bob Mackie later revealed that by 1975, Joe's attitude had started to shift. He wanted more control, approving guest lists, editing scripts, and even demanding to see sketches before Carol did. In one tense meeting, he told her they should cut emotional moments from the show and stick to pure comedy. Carol pushed back, saying audiences needed both heart and laughter. That disagreement marked the start of a growing rift, both professionally and personally. As the show's pressure mounted, Joe started spending less time at home. Carol assumed it was work, more meetings, more late nights, but whispers started spreading through the industry. In August 1979, TV Guide published a blind item hinting that a veteran producer was having a private relationship in a Los Angeles editing suite. They didn't print names, but everyone in the business seemed to know who it was about. Crew members quietly mentioned seeing Joe dining with a young CBS editor at the Showhouse restaurant right near the studio. Carol didn't confront him immediately, trying to keep her composure, but her close friend Vicki Lawrence later said she broke down in tears after overhearing colleagues gossiping about Joe's too friendly connection with the editor. Then came the breaking point, 1982. While reviewing contracts, Carol's lawyer stumbled on something shocking. Joe had quietly registered Hamilton Productions in Beverly Hills, listing several Carol Burnett Show spin-off projects under his name alone. One of them, Mama's Family, a hit sketch born from Carol's own show, but without her credited ownership. That was it, the last straw for Carol Burnett. She couldn't take one more betrayal. Marching straight into their CBS office, she confronted Joe Hamilton face to face. According to the biography, Laughing Till It Hurts, Carol looked him dead in the eye and asked, "Do you think it's fair to turn what we built together into something that's just yours?" Joe didn't flinch. His reply was cold and sharp. "It's business, Carol, not emotion." That single line ended everything. On March 3, 1983, Carol Burnett officially filed for divorce in Los Angeles County Court. The Los Angeles Times headline read, "Carol Burnett and Joe Hamilton split." But behind that tidy headline was a brutal battle, one of the most tangled asset divisions Hollywood had ever seen. Joe demanded full production rights, including profits from the Carol Burnett show and every spin-off tied to it. Carol refused to back down. She fought for the show's name and for the earnings she had worked for years to build. The courtroom showdown stretched on for nearly a year. Reporters from People, Variety, and USA Today camped outside the courthouse every single day, hoping to catch a glimpse of the former power couple. Inside, Carol sat poised, calm, and heartbreakingly composed, while Joe appeared weary and worn down. They barely exchanged words. Finally, in June 1984, the court delivered its ruling. Carol Burnett would retain full rights to the show's name, while Joe would receive 40% of the syndication profits. When People magazine asked her afterward how she felt, she gave a faint, bittersweet smile and said, "We were the best team, until he forgot I was more than a partner." That quote made the cover of People and echoed across talk shows nationwide. After the divorce, Carol cut every tie with Joe's production company. His later projects never came close to matching the success they once created together. When Joe passed away from heart disease in 1991, Carol didn't attend the funeral, but she sent a bouquet of white flowers with a handwritten note. "I wish you peace, Joe. As for me, I'll keep going." Short, simple, but filled with everything left unsaid. Years later, during a reflective interview at the Paley Center for Media, she spoke softly about that painful chapter. "Joe taught me that in this business, love isn't enough," she said. "You also need trust." But Joe wasn't the last man to leave a scar on her story. The third man on Carol's list of unforgettable encounters? None other than Marlon Brando. Some Hollywood tales sound too wild to believe until they turn out to be true. And this one? It's straight out of a late-night drama. Picture this. It's July 1972, a quiet summer night in Los Angeles. The hills around Coldwater Canyon are dark and still, and Carol is fast asleep in her home with her two daughters. At 3 a.m., the phone suddenly rings. Her housekeeper, thinking it must be a studio emergency, rushes to wake her. Groggy and half asleep, Carol picks up the phone and freezes when she hears a deep, unmistakable male voice say, "Carol, it's Marlon Brando." At first she thought someone was playing a prank, but then he mentioned watching a rerun of the Carol Burnett show on CBS, and she realized it really was him. Shocked but polite, Carol thanked him for calling, assuming the conversation would last a minute or two. But Brando wasn't ready to hang up. For over 30 minutes he kept talking about acting, fame, Hollywood, and the kind of work that truly mattered. At one point, he even told her, "Television needs more women like you." It was flattering and unexpected, especially coming from one of the most mysterious and unpredictable men in the industry. Marlon Brando's smooth voice began to slow, his tone dipping into something softer and more personal. Carol Burnett later revealed, "I realized I was speaking to the real Marlon Brando, not one of his roles. He was captivating, brilliant, and undeniably magnetic, but there was danger in his charm." As his comments drifted past friendly admiration into uncomfortable territory, Carol decided to put an end to it. With her signature poise, she cut in, firm but polite. "Mr. Brando, I appreciate your kind words, but it's very late. I have an early call tomorrow." Then she hung up, assuming that was the end of it. But by sunrise, Hollywood was on fire. The Hollywood Reporter screamed the headline, "Marlon Brando calls Carol Burnett at 3 a.m." Within hours, the Los Angeles Herald-Examiner followed with another. "Brando finds inspiration in CBS's comedy queen." Gossip columnists Luella Parsons and Rona Barrett jumped on the story, claiming the call lasted over an hour, and that Brando sounded completely smitten. CBS scrambled to control the situation, releasing a statement saying the call was entirely personal. But that didn't calm the storm. Furious, Carol demanded her PR team shut down the rumors, but it was too late. The story had taken on a life of its own. One so-called anonymous source even claimed Brando tried calling her again a few days later, but Carol didn't answer. According to her close friend Vicki Lawrence, Carol felt humiliated and furious. She feared the public would twist the situation into something it wasn't. Over lunch at Musso and Frank Grill, she vented to Vicki saying, "He crossed the line. I can't believe someone like Marlon Brando thinks a late-night call is acceptable." From that night on, Carol made sure to avoid him completely. Whenever an event list came across her desk, she'd quietly check to see if his name was anywhere near hers. At the 1974 AFI Awards, when Brando made an unannounced appearance on the red carpet, Carol turned and walked the other way. Instantly, reporters assumed it was coincidence, but the people in the industry knew better. From that point forward, her PR team had standing orders, printed at the bottom of her monthly schedule: do not attend events with Brando present. It was never publicized, but a former CBS staffer later confirmed in Hollywood Inside Out that Carol Burnett strictly kept her distance from any venue or appearance where Brando might show up. As for Brando, he never commented publicly on the controversy, but acquaintances claimed he later joked, "Carol takes things too seriously. It was just a conversation." Instead of diffusing the tension, that smug remark only made things worse, feeding his reputation for arrogance and carelessness. For Carol, it wasn't just about a personal slight. It was a lesson, a harsh, lasting one about boundaries and respect in an industry that often blurred both. After that night, she became noticeably more private, more careful about who she let into her world. One former crew member from the Carol Burnett show even revealed, after Brando, she never answered calls after midnight again, not even from CBS. That single encounter changed the way she handled fame forever. Hollywood, 1968, a world dripping in glamour, champagne, and egos big enough to light up Sunset Boulevard. The Carol Burnett show had exploded into a national sensation, sweeping the Emmys and turning Carol into one of television's brightest, most beloved stars. That same glittering year, Cary Grant, the epitome of old-school Hollywood charm, was being honored with a Lifetime Achievement Award from the Hollywood Foreign Press Association. Two icons, two generations. On paper, their paths should have crossed with nothing but warmth and admiration. But that night at the Beverly Hilton Hotel, one careless comment turned what should have been a beautiful moment into a cold Hollywood standoff that would never truly fade away. The gala was pure magic, held in the hotel's Grand International Ballroom, packed wall to wall with legends. Lucille Ball, Gregory Peck, Elizabeth Taylor, Jack Lemmon. The room sparkled with fame. And then there was Carol Burnett, making her entrance in a deep red Bob Mackie gown that shimmered under the lights. Confident, radiant, and on top of the world. After the ceremony, she spotted Cary Grant's table across the room. With a glass of champagne in hand and her signature charm, she walked over, ready to congratulate him on his award. Film critic Roger Ebert, who happened to be at the event that night, later wrote that as Carol approached, the mood in the air suddenly shifted. A director seated beside Grant tried to lighten things up by saying, "Have you seen Carol's show? The whole country loves it." But instead of joining in the praise, Cary Grant gave a sly smirk. His voice was calm, polished, but dripping with sarcasm. "Oh, that show," he said. "The one where she waves her arms, makes faces, and overacts. I don't understand why people enjoy that sort of thing." The words hit the room like a thunderclap. Laughter from a few tables died instantly. Others froze mid-sip, pretending not to hear. It was awkward, painfully awkward. But Carol, ever the professional, didn't flinch. She kept her smile, straightened her posture, and replied evenly, "Maybe people prefer laughing with real folks rather than with perfection." The silence that followed was thick enough to cut through. Then she gave a polite nod, turned gracefully, and walked away, leaving Cary Grant sitting there with a strange smile that couldn't quite hide the sting. And just like that, Hollywood had a brand new headline. 2 days later, the Los Angeles Times ran a short entertainment brief titled "Cary Grant and Carol Burnett, a frosty encounter at the Beverly Hilton." It was only a few lines long, but the undertone was loud and clear. Grant had taken a jab at Carol's down-to-earth humor, and she'd fired back with quiet class. The story caught fire fast. Some insiders rushed to defend Grant, claiming he was just being playful, but audiences, especially women across America, weren't buying it. To them, Carol represented authenticity, someone who didn't hide behind polished Hollywood perfection. Fans were furious that anyone, even Cary Grant, would dare belittle her success. CBS wasted no time stepping in. They released a short but powerful statement. Carol Burnett represents humor that is humane and intelligent. The message was clear. The network stood firmly behind its star. From that moment on, Hollywood insiders whispered about the Burnett-Grant frost. The two icons never publicly reconciled, and though both remained legends in their own right, that one tense exchange at the Beverly Hilton became part of entertainment lore. Proof that even in the land of endless smiles and flashing cameras, pride could still turn champagne nights into lasting grudges. Laughter, born from empathy, not foolishness. Those were the official words CBS released, but everyone in Hollywood knew exactly who they were aimed at: Cary Grant. Carol Burnett kept her silence, her grace unshaken. But Grant? He couldn't resist fanning the flames. In a later interview with Variety journalist Art Silverman, when asked about American TV comedy, he said smugly, "I prefer a more refined humor, something closer to the European style. Television these days tries too hard to be funny." He didn't drop names, but no one had to guess. Everyone in the business knew who he meant. Then the tabloids jumped in and made it worse. Headlines blared that Grant had allegedly told Burnett directly that she made comedy lose its elegance. Though unconfirmed, the rumor spread like wildfire, turning up the heat across Hollywood. Fans were furious. They adored Carol's honest, relatable comedy. Within weeks, CBS reported that viewer letters had doubled in November 1968, most of them written by people expressing pure support and admiration for Carol Burnett. What made it even more powerful? She never clapped back. No interviews, no fiery statements. Nothing. She stayed focused, smiling through it all, letting her work do the talking. That same season, The Carol Burnett Show hit its highest ratings ever, and in a bold move, she invited her best friend, comedy legend Lucille Ball, to co-star in a special episode. Lucille later revealed, "Carol told me, the best response is when they turn on the TV and still see us there." That was Carol's quiet revenge, not through words, but through unstoppable success. Still, she never forgot that night at the Beverly Hilton. When Paramount Pictures later offered her a co-starring role opposite Cary Grant in a 1970 musical, she turned it down, politely, of course, citing scheduling conflicts. But a close friend later spilled the truth. Carol had said privately, "I won't work with someone who looks down on women's laughter." Grant never apologized publicly, nor did he ever bring up the incident again. But years later, in Graham McCann's biography, Cary Grant, A Class Apart, it was revealed that Grant once confessed, "Carol is such a smart, strong woman. She made me feel uneasy." That one line said it all. What he saw as overacting was really her confidence shining through. Ironically, his disdain only fueled her determination. Carol doubled down on what she did best, celebrating real people. She played housewives, maids, secretaries, seamstresses, characters with everyday struggles and giant hearts, and America loved her even more for it. Within 3 short years, she won 3 consecutive Emmys, and The Carol Burnett Show was officially named by TV Guide as one of America's most iconic television programs. Her laughter, that mix of heart and honesty, became a symbol of what comedy was meant to be. From that ordeal, Carol learned one of the most powerful lessons of her life. You don't have to argue with critics, just let success do the talking. But while her career soared higher than ever, it came with an unexpected cost. Her success, confidence, and staying power began to rattle some of the most influential men in the business. One of them, Lorne Michaels, the mastermind behind Saturday Night Live. For decades, Carol Burnett quietly believed Lorne had deliberately kept her off the SNL stage. Despite being the woman who paved the way for female-led comedy, she was never once invited to host the show. Imagine that. For nearly 50 years, the queen of sketch comedy, the very person who inspired generations of performers, was shut out of the one show built on the kind of humor she helped create. Given Carol Burnett's legendary status, many in Hollywood saw her absence from Saturday Night Live as more than just an oversight. It felt like a deliberate snub. To really understand why, we have to rewind to 1975, the year SNL made its explosive debut, broadcasting live from Studio 8H inside Rockefeller Plaza in New York City. At that same time, The Carol Burnett Show on CBS was still at the top of its game, deep into its 8th season and dominating the ratings as America's favorite variety program. Carol represented heartfelt, character-driven humor, the kind that brought warmth into every living room. Meanwhile, SNL's creator, Lorne Michaels, was building something entirely different, a sharp, edgy, countercultural brand of comedy that mocked politics, celebrities, and society itself. In those early days, critics couldn't help but compare the two comedy worlds. Harriet Van Horn of the New York Post even suggested that Burnett should host SNL to bridge 2 generations of laughter. It sounded harmless, even exciting. But that one remark quietly sparked what would become a decades-long Cold War in television comedy. Inside NBC, Carol's name reportedly surfaced during discussions for Season 2 in 1976. But according to multiple insiders, Lorne Michaels dismissed the idea almost immediately, allegedly saying, "She doesn't fit the spirit of the show." In the book, Live from New York, Back Bay Books 1976-2002, one editor recalled Michaels describing Burnett as the face of old television, and we're doing something new. That single sentence ignited years of speculation and tension. By 1981, journalist Tom Shales wrote in the Washington Post that Burnett had expressed interest in hosting SNL several times, yet never received a response. That article sent fans into an uproar. Letters poured into NBC, demanding to know why the country's most beloved female comedian, the very woman who had paved the way for sketch comedy, was being ignored. NBC eventually released a short, robotic statement. Guest hosts are chosen based on each season's content and tone. But almost no one bought it. The truth was simpler and colder. Carol had never publicly asked to host. She didn't chase after it. But behind closed doors, many believed she quietly felt dismissed, sidelined by a show that owed part of its DNA to her very influence. During a late 1980s interview on Larry King Live, when asked about the ongoing snub, Carol smiled with her usual grace and said lightly, "Maybe I'm just not edgy enough for them." It was a perfect Burnett response, polite, ironic, and dripping with subtle truth. Those who worked closely with Lorne Michaels have long described him as fiercely protective of SNL's identity, young, rebellious, and laced with irony. The complete opposite of Burnett's brand of humor, which was warm, human, and driven by empathy. A former SNL editor told Rolling Stone in 1990 that Michaels had even rejected a major sponsor's request to include Carol in the show's 10th anniversary special, reportedly saying, "We respect her, but that's not our kind of comedy." That remark drew a line in stone. From then on, Burnett and Michaels existed on opposite sides of the comedy universe, mutual respect from afar, but no warmth between them. Their relationship stayed frosty for decades. Then came 1991, a moment that proved how deep the divide ran. Both Carol Burnett and Lorne Michaels were invited to speak at a Television Academy event in Los Angeles. According to New York Times journalist Bill Carter, the tension in the room was palpable. When Carol took the stage, the audience rose to its feet in thunderous applause, a standing ovation that lasted nearly a full minute. She smiled, waved, and thanked them graciously. Moments later, when Lorne Michaels was called up to speak, the applause was polite, but restrained. And right there, in full view of the cameras, Carol Burnett stayed seated. She didn't clap. She didn't look away, either. She just smiled faintly, her eyes fixed on the lens, calm but unshakably firm. That unforgettable moment at the Television Academy, Carol Burnett's calm, unbothered stare while Lorne Michaels took the stage, didn't just go unnoticed. It became television legend. When Entertainment Tonight aired the clip, fans quickly dubbed it the coldest look in Hollywood. The story might have eventually faded into showbiz history, until something remarkable happened decades later. In 2023, NBC finally decided to celebrate the very woman they'd overlooked for so long, producing Carol Burnett, 90 Years of Laughter plus Love, a star-studded tribute honoring her incredible career and unmatched legacy. During the press tour for the special, The Hollywood Reporter sat down with Carol for an interview. One journalist asked the question that had been lingering for half a century. "Do you ever regret never hosting Saturday Night Live?" Carol smiled sweetly, that same warm smile that had charmed audiences for generations, and said, "I guess they didn't need me, but I didn't need them either." Boom! That one line broke 50 years of silence and shook the internet. Within 24 hours, the hashtag #InviteCarol to SNL went viral, with thousands of fans demanding that NBC finally give the comedy legend her rightful moment on the SNL stage. Even younger generations who'd grown up watching reruns of The Carol Burnett Show joined in, calling her the queen of sketch comedy and the reason SNL even exists. A few weeks later, during a panel at the Paley Center for Media, Carol reflected on the storm she'd unintentionally stirred. With that signature mix of humor and grace, she said, "Some people don't realize that kindness has its own kind of power." The audience erupted in applause, because once again, she'd turned what could have been bitterness into brilliance. After that, Carol quietly began stepping back from the spotlight, appearing less frequently on modern television. She wanted to preserve her legacy, not as someone chasing trends, but as a timeless icon who built her career on authenticity, class, and laughter that came from the heart. But life still had one more twist waiting for her. A project she'd dreamed about for years, one that would bring both excitement and heartbreak. It would soon become one of the most emotional, challenging experiences of her entire career. And that's where we'll pick up next time. If you enjoyed uncovering the untold truth behind Carol Burnett's Hollywood battles and triumphs, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment below to share your thoughts. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.